Through proper channels, he immediately began gathering the facts. His office promptly conducted a transcribed interview of Judge Kavanaugh in which, under penalty of felony, he unequivocally denied the last-minute allegation. And the office received statements from all the other supposed witnesses that they either directly contradicted the story or denied knowing anything about it. What's more, Chairman Grassley ensured that Dr. Ford could be heard in a forum of her own choosing, either here or in California, either in public or in private, either with the staff or with the members. He's gone above and beyond to accommodate her request. Thanks to him, we have a fair and open hearing scheduled for Thursday. Dr. Ford will be able to state her allegation under oath, and Judge Kavanaugh will be able to respond. But the smear campaign didn't stop there. That was just Act One. Just Act One. According to the reporter of this second allegation, the accuser, quote, came forward because Senate Democrats began looking, and now they're calling for even further delays and further obstruction over a second decades-old allegation that is so thin and so unsupported that the New York Times refused to even run a story about it. This claim is so dubious that the New York Times passed on the story entirely after looking into it. Here's why the New York Times declined to publish. Quote, interviewed several dozen people over the past week in an attempt to corroborate her story and could find no one with firsthand knowledge. Not one person with firsthand knowledge to support the allegation, but rather multiple on-the-record denials again. The Times also reported that the claimant said she herself is uncertain of her claim. That's the New York Times, whose credo is all the news that's fit to print. And it found this latest last-minute allegation not even fit to print. Oh, but that hadn't stopped Judiciary Committee Democrats from shoveling it into their smear campaign and demanding for further delays. They kept this one secret from Republicans, too, by the way. Evidently, several Democratic offices knew of this allegation for at least a week. But like with Dr. Ford's claim, they sat on this one, too. So the committee could not take any proper action. They just wanted it to wind up in the press. Another orchestrated last-minute hit on the nominee. And now they're acting like it's a legitimate reason to delay things even further, as though they hadn't already announced themselves as completely opposed to his nomination anyway. As if they hadn't already promised the far left they would lead the fight to bring this nomination down, whatever it took, whatever the cost. Whatever it took, whatever the cost. Let's put aside this last-minute, unsubstantiated smear. Let's return to the facts. Let's have a fair hearing on Thursday. Here are the facts that we do have. Hundreds of men and women who have known Brett Kavanaugh across his life have written or spoken out that he is a man of strong character and tremendous integrity. Numerous witnesses testified before the Judiciary Committee that he's a trusted mentor, a loyal friend, and a lifelong champion of women. More than 75 women gathered last week to share their decades-old knowledge of Judge Kavanaugh as a, quote, responsible guy who treats us with kindness and respect and a true gentleman in all aspects of his life. And separately, of course, it remains beyond reasonable dispute that Judge Kavanaugh's legal brilliance and excellence on the bench make him one of the very most qualified Supreme Court nominees in the history of our country. All of these facts are quite clearly on one side. Maybe that's why the Democrats are so panicked. Maybe that's why they're so willing to try to bring down this nominee. In the meantime, a good and honorable man and his family are receiving death threats. They're the subject of smears and are facing Senate Democrats who say he has no presumption of innocence because they don't agree with his judicial philosophy. Well, before the week is out, both Judge Kavanaugh and Dr. Ford will testify under oath before the Judiciary Committee. Chairman Grassley has made sure the facts will be heard. Judge Kavanaugh and the American people deserve nothing less. And I want to make it perfectly clear, Mr. President, Judge Kavanaugh will be voted on here on the Senate floor. Up or down, on the Senate floor, this fine nominee to the Supreme Court will receive a vote in this Senate in the near future. Now, on an entirely different matter, last week our efforts to restore regular appropriations hit another milestone. The President signed into law our first appropriations package. It will fund critical efforts in energy research and security, waterways and infrastructure projects, and improving care at the VA. Earlier this month, the Senate passed a conference report that will fund the Departments of Defense, Labor, Health and Human Services, and Education. We anticipate the House will take up that package this week, and work continues on other important legislation. Soon we'll act to provide long-term stability and reforms to the Federal Aviation Administration, the Transportation Security Administration, and the National Transportation Safety Board. It will also take up America's Water Infrastructure Act, which will bolster the efforts of the Army Corps of Engineers and make commitments to improving water quality and advancing hydropower. Most immediately, we'll continue to process the President's well-qualified nominees. Today, we're considering Jackie Wolcott to serve as U.S. Representative to the International Atomic Energy Agency and U.S. Representative to the United Nations in Vienna. I would urge all of our colleagues to join me in voting to confirm her. Now, on one final matter. Over the Senate's history, we have welcomed many brave and men and women who have served in uniform in our ranks. From the earliest days of our republic, when veterans of the Revolution laid down their arms to serve as legislators, the Senate has been the home of patriots who know the true meaning of service and sacrifice. Some of our colleagues have even decided to pull double duty, continuing to serve in the reserves while suffering the slings and arrows here in the Senate. Today, we have a unique opportunity to honor one of these colleagues. Earlier this month, news came that our friend, the junior senator from Alaska, had attained the rank of colonel in the U.S. Marine Corps Reserve. Dan Sullivan has spent the last quarter century as a Marine, earning the Defense Meritorious Service Medal and serving on active duty in Afghanistan. Those of us who serve here with Senator Sullivan are hardly surprised that someone so squared away has risen to this milestone. Today, his promotion is recognized in a special ceremony here in the Capitol, where I understand Senator Sullivan's father will pin on his new rank. I know this body will join me in congratulating him and thanking both Senator Sullivan and Colonel Sullivan for all of his service to the nation.